The truth does not matter. You cannot put an advert on a platform like YouTube. That is obviously a lie. So who in the world works at YouTube marketing? Who in the world works at YouTube ad placements? When people pay YouTube a certain fee to run their ads, what's the word that I'm looking for? Scans. Who vets these videos? Who vets them? Who screens them? Who screens them? Because you can't just advertise anything. It would be like putting an advert on YouTube that is very licentious, with like a whole XXX nudity full frontal thing happening in order to lead people to a porn site. You can't just put that on YouTube because it's not that kind of platform. So whoever is screening advertisements that come through on YouTube should have responsibly been able to basically try to verify if this person is not proliferating a lie, because they are speaking in the name of a global elite, Elon Musk. It's like the truth does not matter. You cannot just come to YouTube and advertise human trafficking and successfully have that advert proliferated. But this particular ad is running on YouTube because somebody at YouTube missed it altogether. They literally, it's got Elon Musk in it and a very prolific South African journalist, and it's deep fake. It's deep fake images. It's deep fake imagery. Literally, truth does not matter anymore. I don't know how many South Africans have been swindled of 5,700 rands because of that ad. I have no clue. I don't know why it's not being covered in the news, but I saw it for what it was straight away. Because Elon Musk would, how can I describe that? Like, that advert is basically saying something along the lines of Elon Musk has provided for South Africans to make sure that they never have to work again a single day in their lives. They just need to invest 5,700 rands in some artificial intelligence stock portfolio, and it'll just make you money in Jeffella, millions and millions, as you just sit around at home. That's not something that Elon Musk would ever do. That is not something that, like, proper, it's not true. It's deep fake. But truth does not matter. I'm trying to help you guys understand that truth does not matter anymore. And more people are running with the lack of veracity in anything, insofar as they've got support. And as Rano, when you have got numbers in favor of you, even when you're wrong, you are fast headed towards the worst time in the history of the human race. And it is called the Great Tribulation, where a whole bunch of people in their masses are going to hate God, and they're going to think it's okay to hand their mothers, their brothers, their sisters, their cousins over to be beheaded. They're going to think it's okay to do that. They are going to get drones, as mindless drones, collectively get a mark put on their forehead or on their right hand called the mark of the beast. They are going to collectively agree to hate a certain people group and get them killed no matter what it is that they say or do. Persecution at that height. They are going to agree to starve anyone that does not agree with that rhetoric. They are going to hunt down certain people like they're animals. The time in history is arriving when that's going to happen. Collectively, they're going to laugh at the murder of the two witnesses and celebrate and exchange gifts with each other. Like, that is the world that we're headed towards, where there's literally a brain drain and a mind control of an entire population of Earth's citizens, of everybody on the planet. Never mind just one country or one section of a country or one section of a city in a country, but everybody, absolutely everybody. That's where we're headed. That's where we're going, hitting the ground running. The falling away, the apostasy, it's going to precede that time, because the man of lawlessness cannot be revealed until then. And so first there has to be an apostatizing from the truth, who is Jesus. He is the way, he is the truth, he is the life, and no one comes to the Father except through him. So first people are going to fall away from the truth, who is Christ, and then the restrainer will be removed, who are Christians, those who hold the Holy Spirit, and so who hold the truth. And then once the restrainer has been removed and the truth has been walked away from by a whole mass of people, then they're going to walk around in that grain. They are bringing about the tribulation. I don't know, guys. I seriously have no idea if we still have a tomorrow. I keep on trying to hope for it. I keep on trying to pray for it. I keep on trying to think I can still have children and a husband in this state, in this state, in this era, this time that I'm in. But as quickly as things are happening, it looks like it's not. It can't be. I literally keep on getting dreams where it is that people want to come back into my life on their own terms. They want to fashion my future in their own image because they have prospered to get numbers, sheer numbers of people to agree with them in consensus, in concert, that I must just be ignored, even when I am sitting on damning evidence against them. My truth, my documentation, my paper trail does not matter. Truth is irrelevant. It's written in God's word that these people have not loved the truth but have taken pleasure in their unrighteousness. So God sends them a strong delusion, so they will continue to run with the lie. They take heed of seducing spirits and doctrines of demons and depart from the faith. They think there is no tomorrow. Guys, like, you know what? People reap what they have sown. You cannot imagine that you can walk around with so much darkness and be okay ultimately. How is there no fear? Why is your conscience not catching up with you? Why do you not recognize that you are horrible? Why under heaven are you not suspicious of the end result of what you're doing? You ought at least sniff it out in the sky. Like, guys, you know, if there where there is smoke, there is fire. You cannot walk in such dead deeds. You cannot walk in such dead deeds and anticipate that you're gonna live. You cannot walk in so much calamity and anticipate you're gonna live. And you also cannot be so proud of societal corruption that you're prepared to proliferate it instead of rather justice. Who is happy in corruption other than the corrupt? So, I mean, if you're happy with corruption being proliferated, you're saying you're happy with anarchy. You're saying you're happy with lawlessness, with a society that has no regard for the rules. Well, in Matthew 24, it is written that because of an increase in lawlessness, the love of many will grow cold. So, I mean, if you love lawlessness because you are lawless, you are asking for a cantankerous, chaotic society where everything goes. Insofar as you're given leeway to be at peace in your lawlessness. Insofar as they have allowed you to just continue to do whatever you want to do while being lawless, you are content to thrive another day and another day and another day. You cannot be proud that your countrymen are happy to help you get away with murder. Because on that day, how many people are they going to let get away with murder? When criminals are running around in the street, when people who should be behind jail cells are set free, we are dealing with a society where everybody is a rape victim, a murder victim, a theft victim. Only look at the chaos in America right now. And literally, it's just everything goes in there. People are robbing, they're mugging, they are hurting people on the street. It's crazy. I never ever imagined that the US would ever look like that. We imagined that all of that, like, careless, tactless, incendiary criminality is an issue with South Africa, like it's an African thing, and sparked even by poverty. But a lot of the people who are robbing like this are not even coming from poor households. They're just doing it because the laws in the country have been loosened so much that people are just purging. They're just purging. I mean, when societies across the world are melting like that, like literally melting as on a hot stove, what future do we have when truth does not matter? Only look at what happened in Israel. They literally set free like tens, or is it hundreds, of prisoners, of criminals, in exchange for law-abiding citizens, law-abiding innocent citizens that were abducted, doing life on Shabbat, their lives, and not even as many as was necessary, in exchange for hundreds of, if not tens, like a bigger number, much larger number of criminals that were Palestinian. How does that even make sense? What world are we living in, guys? Like, what in the world is going on? I'm not going to be gaslit into shutting up. I'm not going to be gaslit into or neglecting my status as an elephant in the room. Because frankly, it's the only thing that's keeping me relevant. Being an elephant in the room is the only thing that's keeping me relevant. Being taboo is the only thing that is keeping me colorful, and is the only thing that's maintaining my sobriety, because I would literally lose my mind if people who have for years walked around me acting like I did this to myself, and who are also walking around me acting like they did not do to me what they did. I'm sorry, I can't. Like, witchcraft is anonymous unless you've got a spiritual gifting. If you're gonna keep on denying that you did anything to me, fine. You get to deny what you want to deny, being a truth hater, but you don't get to have me in your life. Just the number of people that I keep seeing being back to normal with me, because I have finally just allowed myself to be crazy, to believe that one day, out of just being crazy. But now I've sobered. Can you imagine how successful they would feel? I would be trapped. I would be a prisoner. I'd be incarcerated in all of their groupthink. I would be incarcerated by their gaslighting, their collective agreement that a completely sober woman who is in the midst of a conglomerate of insane people is rather the crazy one. I would literally be sober with my mind sound and in the right position, living amidst crazy people. and they would prosper to make me feel, just because of their sheer numbers, that I'm crazy while they are sober. I will not do it. My YouTube channel is underestimated, and I am also underestimated because I'm so severely shadow banned. I am not only shadow banned, but I am also afflicted by a whole bunch of attackers with spells of different kinds. I've been censored, and so it's given them a sense of security, the fact that I've been censored, even though I am as pregnant and as thick and as rich with my content as I presently am. It's just like my case at MTN. Completely innocent. Documentation starkly standing in my favor. Any sober judge that is not easily motioned unto corruption would quickly vote in my favor. And yet I was dealing with a band of miscreants that told themselves I'm just one woman out of many people, that all together are going to come in concert, in agreement, that I was the one that basically shattered everybody's dreams, and I had to therefore be eradicated from the ecosystem for doing such a thing as that, causing my life, me to face a risk of a lifetime of humiliation even though I was innocent. The Lord says that He will not allow the righteous to be condemned when brought to trial, neither put to shame. And these people tried to condemn me when brought to trial, and they try to put me to shame. This here is an act of self-respect. Do you understand? If you will not respect me, I will respect myself. I will present the truth. I will be believable to anyone who wants to embrace the truth. And if at all you insist on keeping me shadow banned, silenced, smothered, censored, do you. But bottom line is, anyone at all that happens upon my content, even within that state, will recognize that I am being shadow banned, silenced, censored, quietened. I am a person that should be getting hurt by a lot more people, and yet I'm not. And those who have gotten away with murder are priding themselves in the fact that no one is listening to me. However, they are kind of nervous. Why? Because I sound like this. Because this is what I'm recording. This is what I am delivering forward. I am easy to listen to. I am walking in a great deal of veracity. I am, with journalistic integrity to a certain extent, I'm much like a war correspondent in the spurt. That's what I am. I am believable. And not only am I believable, I also hold a lot of integrity, and I value truth. Not only do I value truth, I value presenting it to you in a way that is backed up. That's who it is that I am. So I'm very hard to ignore. I'm very hard to ignore. So if at all I'm being ignored, it's a manipulation, do you understand? There is a tactic and a strategy to ensure that nobody listens to me. Because should I get listened to, there would be a fire that would spark in this particular field that I am in. There would be a fire that would be sparked in this field that I am in. I cannot, for the life of me, be perpetually ignored without anybody at all that has seen it fit to me being ignored. Feeling some kind of way, strange, uneasy, uncomfortable, antsy, sitting on a cactus, lying on a bed of needles. People who have done this to me are scared of me because they've made themselves the only audience to my content. And when they listen to me, they get goosebumps, they get shocked, they get made to understand that they're messing with a ticking time bomb. They are made to hear day and night the trumpeting of an elephant on a mountaintop that they have insisted on putting in a room. They see the thing that I am as an explosion that is impending them, and if at all they don't do a better thing, they stand to be very severely humiliated. However, in their efforts to silence me, they now want to bring me into their lives. They now want to mesh me in their ecosystems. They now want to make me blend nicely in with them by incorporating me into their lifestyles. They want to invite me to events that I frankly find abominable to attend. They want me to also basically just kind of talk with them like nothing of this nature happened. Just like with the analogy that I made when I first started talking here, of the boyfriend that slaps you and then disappears for a month, calls you, and then when he's talking to you this time around, apologizes for being mean, for perhaps speaking negatively to you, but without ever confessing that he slapped you. Given that you had made it clear in the past that if a man ever hits you, it's a deal breaker, that's the end of the relationship. So just so as to not walk in the deal breaker, he then acts and pretends entirely that he never ever beat you up at all, that he never ever slapped you at all. That is a person that's trying to make you look crazy when he's the one that's crazy. You gotta leave, you gotta walk away, you gotta get out. Nobody is going to prosper to come into my life without ever confessing what they did to me and causing me to be a Stepford lady, just kind of going through the modes, scared of everything and everyone, afraid of rattling a cage or like messing with some feathers, like plucking some people's feathers. I don't want to live a life of fear around people who could get me incarcerated a second time. I'm already suffering from a severe case of not postpartum depression, sorry, I apologize. Perhaps I'm speaking out of my maternal desires. What I wanted to say is post-traumatic stress disorder. I am already suffering from a very bad case of PTSD. So just from being neglected and abandoned and treated like I'm basically just this rotten apple out of everything. It's bad enough I've been isolated and made to live in solitude unnecessarily for like literally almost a decade. It's been 9 years. 9 years. Now, if at all I were to find myself now immersed amidst the very people who put me in a position to suffer like this for an entire decade, how much more traumatized would I be? And the sad thing about these people is that when you try to raise these things and basically go to therapy about what they did to you, they then get angry and deny that they ever did anything at all. I will never have anyone in my life that ever did this to me ever again for those reasons. I told you witches are full of gaslighting, and their gas of choice is carbon monoxide. It's a silent killer. And because they stand with each other in the lie, and thanks to just their sheer numbers again, that is exactly what it is that causes their victims ultimately to just throw in the towel, capitulate, allow friends to come back into the lives of people that are horrible, that are monstrous. Do you understand? Literally sitting having lunch with a friend that messed with your marriage. You are now divorced. You suspected her of sowing discord between you and your husband, but you were given a whole bunch of attitude and screamed at, yelled at, basically kind of dumped, slammed the door on by a friend that did do it. And because of how vehemently she denied the accusations, the allegations, you then were like, okay, I'm sorry for accusing you. Sometimes I guess I'm just hearing things in my head when she did it. And here it is that now that you've divorced your husband thanks to her doing, you are sitting with her at a restaurant eating lunch. That's what they expect. But bread buttered on both sides, having their cake and eating it too, chilling with you in camaraderie, sharing pleasantries, exchanging notes with people that put you in a position to lose everything. I lost a decade of my life. I've got a geriatric womb. I haven't married. I don't have children. Do you understand what I'm saying? I lost my degree. I lost my career. I lost everything. And you want to rock up after 10 years of acting like that did not happen, and then just kind of have lunch. Really? Yo, guys, that's like it. Like, you will make some people homicidal some days. Is that basic? Like, I don't know what in the world it would take for me to end up hanging out with people that have denied they did this to me when I know what they did last summer. I would have to either be dead and so a zombie chilling opposite you at a table at a restaurant, or I would have to be fully transformed into some kind of a schizophrenia. I would have to be mentally insane. And given that I've got this level of support against me, with people standing in concert with each other against me, I feel as if though the only way out of this, there's one of two things. I either get out, move on with my life with no one that was in my past coming with me in the future. That's one way out. Number two, rapture, go home. So everything can be so the record can be set straight by a holy God. And from what the Lord has shown me, my release is soon. And it is from the words, his own words verbatim that he used was an epic release. Epic release. I've spoken about this before. Now, I don't know what's more epic than a rapture. I don't know what's more epic than a rapture, but there could also be an epic release with the fact that I will be able to move forward with my life with literally everything brand spanking new. Never mind the shoes and the underwear on my body being new, but so too will every last person in my life be new. I do not want any of these randos from the past. I don't. I'm sorry. All this gaslighting, that would also be an epic release where I literally get to live a life from scratch. Where I get to live a life from scratch with new people and it look as if though I've known them all my life. It would be a miracle for me to have my life repopulated with people and it look like I've always had them. It would be a miracle. But we're just gonna have to see what happens. But the level of being patronized is out of this world. I cannot deal. And South Africa, I can't say this enough. You have sown discord. You have sown trouble. You have sown calamity. You have sown irreconcilability. You have sown wickedness. You have sown witchcraft. You cannot anticipate that you're gonna reap anything but corruption. You have sown to the flesh. How in the world, like anyone that feels entitled to me, that feels like I could come into their life? Yo, I'm a godly woman. Do you understand? I'm clean. I've never dabbled, I've never touched witchcraft. I am a consecrated woman that is honoring of God. I am prayerful. I stand in the gap for people. I fast. I am a godly woman. Essentially what that makes me is an excellent wife to any man. It makes me a great mom to any children. It makes me a good friend to any girlfriends and maybe guy friends. It makes me a good daughter to any mom. It makes me the kind of person that you really value and you want to have in your life, in your corner. So therefore, if anybody at all has me, it would be a travesty if at all they don't deserve me. It would be an absolute travesty if they don't deserve me. So I have been making war with banna badi korobela, men, into love spells, tricking women into being with them even though they don't want them. I've been making war with wicked, animalistic, beastly, entitled men who want to marry me as a second wife, a third wife, a fourth. Men who have got multiple children all over the show, that have been fornicating, that have been basically dunking themselves into women. Two weeks before, they slide into my direct messages. This animal in America. I don't even know why I'm calling him an animal, because animals have a lot more decorum than that guy. Insist on being with me. And the thing that I am rejecting is precisely the fact that he does not deserve me. You don't get to live like the world and so a gorgeous bride that is consecrated, faithful, in love with God, and so therefore highly unlikely going to afflict you with all the random stunt work that women in the world tend to afflict their husbands. You don't deserve the kind of woman that's going to work tooth and nail to ensure that, you know, your name is great in the city places, that you are praised, that you lack nothing, that you are basically he who finds a wife that finds a good thing. All the characteristics described of the woman in Proverbs 31. You don't deserve to have that woman sitting just blooming in your house when you are this like prolific cheat, this fornicator, this witch, this person that's busy manipulating your wife with like marionette strings. You are busy with witchcraft on your wife, and this woman is busy fasting for you. She's praying for you. She is raising your children in the admonition of the Lord. A household divided like no man's business, where a man is always manifesting demons because his wife is godly, but he is a devil worshipper. I don't know why this guy in America thought that this could ever work. It could never have worked, this relationship. It could never have worked. He was going to always break out into demonic, like, leprosy. He was always going to break out into a rash of demons. So I don't even think it would have gotten to a point of walking down the aisle to him. But I am avoidant of such men as these, because I don't want to find myself in the travesty of having a wicked man in the life of a woman he does not deserve. The same thing is true with friends, like women that bewitch their girls, making sure that they can't get married, making sure that their careers don't progress properly, making sure that their marriages break apart, making sure that their children don't do well in school, making sure that they can't buy the homes that they want, making sure, like, all that sabotage of your girl. And she's in your life. If she's godly, she's the kind of friend that would pray for you, cover you. She would also be there for you at a moment's notice whenever you need something. You don't deserve a woman like that for a friend. You don't deserve a best friend like that. When you keep on throwing spells at her, when you keep on gossiping her with other women, when you keep on sabotaging her, when you keep on backbiting, stabbing her in the back, and also when you insist on gaslighting her after she suspects you of witchcraft. Like, you don't get to stay in her life. A whole bunch of people don't deserve me, do you understand? And yet they want me back. I dreamt about some former friend of mine that I met when I was at Wits University. It was always the three of us, my former best friend, her and I, that were hanging out on campus. And she was, again, in my dreams, she's always just trying to come back and force her strategy down my throat. And it's like, girl, I'm sorry. Wallo, yeah. You don't deserve me, and on top of that, you're not even prepared to admit that that's what you did. She was trying to come back into my life. Last night, I had a dream of my older sister trying to basically reignite a relationship with me while completely denying what she did to me. Comprehensively denying everything. And that's when I don't do and act normally around people that have done this to me. Like, I don't understand why they feel like it's feasible that insofar as these years are ticking, like they keep on going, like the years keep on moving forward, where it is that I've been left in obscurity. They think the years in isolation are going to unconvince me to stick to my guns, that they're going to make me deconstruct my Christianity and realize that I have messed up with the God that I have chosen, that I have not chosen well, that I have basically, this God of mine has caused me to fabricate visions and dreams that accuse them of sorcery, when they have not only committed sorcery against me, but they have also changed on me physically in a way that was felt and experienced. I have been actively hurt by them, collectively spoken rubbish to by them, had them do things to me physically, therefore also evidencing that they also sabotaged me spiritually. And these people want me to pretend that that did not just happen, that you did not sabotage me in a way that was outward, overt, clear and stark, that you did not lie about me, that you did not just watch your own sister literally waste away for years. They sit around hoping that the day is going to arrive when I will deconstruct my Christianity and realize that God is not God. Except I'm proving right now that God is God and Baal is not God. And in this thing that I'm doing, the devil has made them super desperate to try and come into my life to make me deconstruct Jesus. He is the constructor of everything, and they want me to deconstruct him. He is the one that has built everything, and they want me to unbuild him. He's the one that has stitched everything together, and they want me to unravel him. They want me to walk away from the king of the universe that gave me understanding about what was around me. All of the persecution, all of the trauma, all of the sabotage, all of the denial of true love and true family, their nihilism. They have literally walked around, pranced in these streets in that incendiary activity, and expected me to finally just see where in the under heaven it is that they're coming from. I must see where people that have treated me like trash for an entire decade were coming from. How in the world do you bring people like those back into your life? Do you even know why they want me back in their lives? It's because they have nothing good left in their lives, and so they want something, wholesomeness. It's like they're living in these pitch dark black rooms, and they need a spark of light. That's the thing about people who stab people in the back. Ultimately, it gets so freezing, it gets so hypothermic where it is that they're living, that they now want to grab people and use them as blankets to warm them up, the very people that they betrayed. You don't get to have your bread buttered on both sides, humanity South Africa. You don't get to have your bread buttered on both sides. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot bewitch people, stab them in the back, hurt everything that you have ever known, and anticipate that you're going to have a happy future. I am being desired by some pretty disgusting, far gone men. Do you understand? To be in just like a baby mama. Like, literally, I'm being fetishized. And the only reason why men fetishize me the way that they fetishize me is because I have nobody. An entire family and friends set that have abandoned me to a point where I'm being fetishized by filthy men. And when you have put a woman in a position to be traumatized that badly by sexual perverts all over the world, all over the internet, yeah, when you've put a woman in a position to be fetishized that badly, and then you try to come into her life after 10 years of such disastrous trauma, what are you going to talk about? When last time you spoke to her, she was cool. And now when you're talking to her, she's always shaking. Now she's always looking over her shoulder. Now she's like properly, every guy she doesn't trust anymore. She's twitchy because she has spent literally a decade on a battlefield such that she can't not look over her shoulder. Every single time she has a noise, she glitches. How are you going to deal with my trauma when you are trying to gaslight me into believing that nothing ever happened? I just literally decided to go crazy one night. All I can think about is that the only way out of this is for Christ to come and grab the church, because if he doesn't, my goodness, they're gonna want to keep on coming back. Like, you can't destroy every good and wholesome thing out of your life out of envy and expect to come back into its life when you've lost everything, when you've squandered yourself, when you've wasted yourself away, when you have thrown yourself in the dregs and the bowels of hell, lived there for an entire decade, and then try to come back into the life of a consecrated person. I keep getting all of these nightmares that I, for the life of me, cannot comprehend. Like, one dream, my older sister was literally coming back into my life, treating me like I am some pretty child. Like, all that she has tried to do with me for years is reduce me to just some pretty face. Both she and I are academics of prolific measure. Both she and I are somewhat geniuses, and she bewitched me to look like just a pretty face. In other words, I've got the smarts, I've got the degrees, but you've got the beauty. That's what I'm dealing with. And such a person wants to sit opposite me, having lunch, acting as if though nothing of that nature ever happened. Reducing me to a pretty face. Why? Because I'm sitting at the back of your mother's house in a shack, gathering dust, going nowhere. At least investigate, however. Investigate and interrogate. What am I doing in that shack? What am I saying? What am I speaking? What am I attempting to achieve? That's the thing that's going to humiliate you into recognizing that I'm not just a pretty face. You don't get to just dictate people's plans for them. You don't get to just fix people's lives like you're fixing a match. Like, you don't get to just do that and then come back after you've decimated them and hope to just carry on from where you left off. I told you guys that witchcraft is like a crime of passion. Those who afflict their friends, family, their people, where they tend to afflict people they love. And so they feel the void when these people are not in their lives anymore. After they betray them, they miss them, and upon missing them, they then want them back, but on their own terms. You don't want to confess what you did, but you want to subjugate Karabo to the tyranny of basically confessing that she's been crazy for a whole decade, but now she has sobered, and now it's lunch again. Now it's the braais again. Now it's breaking bread again. Now we're going shopping again. Really? I can't even buy my own clothes. Are you going to be the one buying my shoes when we go shopping? I'm sorry. Like, from now on, like, go from this date forward, if anything, it's been like this for a minute. I do not have any friends, and I don't have any family, except that which I am going to ultimately get in the future. It's that basic. My immediate biological family will, at a minimum, always be able to call me and me respond. But everybody else are as good as dead to me. everybody else is as good as dead to me. I mean, the level of gaslighting for me is just, it's the main thing is the gaslighting. The thing that really afflicts me is the gaslighting. It is the fact that people not only denied what they did, but they're trying to make me feel like I am manufacturing stuff in my own brain. I know what I saw. I know what people did. I know what I've also experienced. And I also have evidence, bounds of it, in support of my case. And you don't get to just rock up and say nothing of that nature ever happened. The truth might not matter to you, but I belong to the truth. I belong to the way. I belong to the truth, and I belong to the life. Meaning I can never be separated from the truth. And so when you try to undermine the truth, you try to undermine Jesus. And I cannot walk away from the one who has grafted me into himself and guaranteed that I can't be plucked out of his hand. It is literally impossible to uproot the truth out of me because I am in the truth. So to attempt to make me walk in falsehood is to grieve the Spirit of the Lord in so much as making even the suggestion. Just to make the suggestion alone is grieving enough for me to have a conversation as long as this one that I've been having with you guys now. So you can understand how much people have just disregarded the truth. Iqiniso. I got born again in 2011, and as soon as I got saved, I tried to save or evangelize everyone in my life. My family members caught wind, of course, because they were the first ones that I was trying for, of my faith, and they immediately persecuted me, first by gossiping me. They spoke really badly about me, talking about how I'm always in church. I'm basically belonging to a cult now. I was gossiped by my mom and sister. I was gossiped by my aunts and uncles, my cousins. I was gossiped all over the show as this religious freak that has joined a cult. And it broke my heart. There was one family, however, in Pimville that stood with me and was like, she's born again. They were a family of lukewarm Christians. So minimally, they attended church every Sunday in a way that the rest of my family isn't religious. So they initially started out supporting me. They ultimately would all fall off the bandwagon after the mom passed away, who was in Christ. And then the kids were scattered because they were never truly saved. They bewitched me, literally that whole family. My whole family has bewitched me, but the very same family at Pimville that used to kereka ko Grace Bible Church in Soweto spells on me. All of them. There isn't even one that did not put a spell on me. All of them bewitched me. All of them, except their mom, who is now late. So really and truly, it's like whatever. So of course, if they turned apostate, then you can trust that the only source of support that I had in the family would also go dry. And as soon as that source of support went dry, that's when they all ramped up a severity of persecution. That's when they ramped up a severity of abuse. And when I lost everything, they stood back. They did nothing. They were aware that I was a born again Christian. Now, the family in Pimville called me born again, just as indeed I was born again. But remember, they were dabbling with darkness. They put spells on me. So they had two gods. They had the God in heaven, and then they had their little ancestral worship, their Baal worship, their Leviathan worship, whatever might be the demons they were running these streets with. So now when you've got these two gods, and since you can't serve two masters, you will either love the one and hate the other. They of course chose the devil over the God of heaven, seeing as they were straddling the fence. They were neither hot nor cold. And so because they were lukewarm, God spat them out of his mouth. They were Saudi and having a reputation for being alive even though they were dead. They were not saved, and so they easily walked away from me when I lost everything. When everything in my life fell apart, they obviously chose the devil. Among the whole conglomerate of the family in Pimville was a cousin who, after my family, my mom and my older sister, basically committed insurance fraud and got me booked into a psychiatric hospital, claiming that it was me. My older sister made a call to my medical aid, which is CAMF, and claimed that she was me. And that's how CAMF gave her the authorization to get me booked into a psychiatric hospital. Once they had solidified, once they had, what is the word that I am looking for, secured the booking into the psychiatric hospital, my apartment was then broken into by the police, the South African police, using my mom, where it is that they dragged me out of my complex, out of my unit, my apartment where I stayed, in front of my neighbors and everything, embarrassing the living daylights out of me, and took me by force to a psychiatric hospital. And when I arrived at the hospital, the check-in clerk or whatever looked at me on some, Miss Karabo, this is the date that you voluntarily just checked yourself into the hospital. Do you agree? I looked at her. I was like, I did not volunteer to come here. This is the first time I'm hearing of this. And this woman was like, well, if you didn't volunteer, then you don't have to come in. And my mom was looking at me on some, if you dare say no, you're going to be in trouble. So I allowed myself to go in there. The next day, I saw some doctors. I slept overnight without seeing anybody. The doctors are the ones that discharged me. One doctor then recommended that I get a restraining order against my whole family. I basically report them to the police for what they did to me. There is a cousin that picked me up from that psychiatric hospital after I got discharged, and that same cousin is one of the members of the family from Pimville. She picked me up and dropped me off at my apartment, but when she got to the hospital, she first looked at me on some, what are you doing at this hospital? It's a psychiatric hospital. And I'm like, I'm a Christian. You know I'm a Christian. This is Christian persecution. She tried to be supportive, but really and truly she was obviously duplicitous. When she was at my apartment, she slept over. She was heavily pregnant at the time. Right? She wasn't married, however. This cousin was much younger than me, and when I had newly gotten saved, she was happy to embrace my God because she came from a family that was always going to church. And so we would always speak about sexual immorality, fornication, seriousness about God. So when I saw her heavily pregnant, unmarried, I was shocked. I was surprised. She didn't even tell me, even though we were tight. She was a good 7 months pregnant when I saw her. She had not told me she was pregnant because she knew that I would ask, but you guys are not married. I thought we spoke about this. We're not supposed to be fornicating. We were going to wait on the Lord for husbands. Yeah, some dude umujisize. First and foremost, let's put that out there. And secondly, she compromised sexually, and so found herself falling pregnant. The guy of which she was so much younger than me, that chick, and so beautiful as well, that she didn't need to settle for any guy. But this dude was already a baby daddy of one and had a whole bunch of baby mama drama. And this chick literally settled for a guy that was way too old. He was even older than me. Do you understand? For her. And secondly, he impregnated her to trap her, and she was so humiliated by the whole thing that she didn't even tell me until she was heavily pregnant, coming to pick me up at the psychiatric hospital. That same cousin of mine, and Eleteng, when she came to pick me up, she was so much younger than me. Remember, all this stuff is happening when I'm 29 years old. She's 21, 22. Okay, so she had just gotten her first car, and I believe this car was financed by this guy on some, since you're pregnant, I guess you better get a car. So at my apartment, she's there heavily pregnant. I give her clothes and everything to wear, something kind of what do you call this thing that's just gonna fit over her belly, because she wasn't intending on sleeping over. She slept over, and the whole time I was so grieved. This is a cousin that I could speak about Jesus very easily with, but the whole entire time that she was at my apartment, I literally wanted to sleep. I felt like making I felt like I wanted to sleep, like I was exhausted by her demons. I was exhausted by her demons, and the conversations that she was having were extremely carnal. I could not believe how far she had fallen from the initial glory or grace that she was in. She had apostatized, it was clear, and her entities, whatever was inside her, was oozing out of her so badly that she made me sleepy. She made me sleepy. Nonetheless, I stayed awake and I tried to keep the conversation, but I was very grieved by what she was talking about. And among the things that she was talking about was some ancestral worship, demonic ritual that she believed in. And I couldn't understand why she was talking about stuff like this, because you're talking with a Christian. You're having a conversation with a Christian. You know I'm a Christian. You came to me for counsel and advice. You came to me for edification. We fellowshipped a lot over lunch. There was a time when we would have lunches every second or third weekend just to talk about Jesus. So you know this is not the kind of stuff that I could ever talk about. She was talking about her pregnancy, how it is that she discovered that she was pregnant. Okay. How it is that she discovered she was pregnant was because some animal at a ceremony or a ritual that they were slaughtering, before they slaughtered it, it did something. It lay on its belly, or it lay on its back with its legs up, and when it does that, she said that it means that somebody around is pregnant. And I was like, based on what? Based on what? Because that's not the Bible. Those are traditions of men. Those are theories and doctrines of demons. Those are destructive heresies. Those are things that come from the occult world. That is stuff rooted in ancestral worship, where it is that a woman's pregnancy test is an animal that is going to act a particular way around an animal, or the way that the sun looks, or the way that chickens are roosting. Like, that's not godly. Those are not interpreting omens. Thank you. The Bible calls that interpreting omens. It's an omen that you gaze upon and you then interpret it. And those who interpret omens are an abomination to Emmanuel. And this chick was talking about some ritual where she was interpreting omens. She was trained this thing. And I couldn't believe that she was having this conversation with me, because she knew I was a Christian, and a very uncompromising one. Unangkhathatsa. Now that you understand that, let's just move on to the next thing. So that's the thing that this cousin is doing. Mix of ancestral worship with Christianity, thinking that she is safe. She ultimately, that same little cousin, cursed me. She put spells on me. I don't know how many dreams I have had of her, priding herself in me going nowhere in life and doing nothing. Yeah. So she goes and she compromises and settles, realizes that I'm walking in the light of God, and after realizing that, sees that I could get more than what it is that what she settled for, and then she goes and grabs her much older cousin and bewitches her whole future, and therefore stops being there for her when everything falls apart, as at that date she had not cast any spells on me, but she ultimately did. She ultimately did. That's what happens. These people compromise, they settle, they do things that don't make sense, they afflict themselves spiritually, following which they then turn around and decide that everybody else is going to get hurt because they hurt themselves spiritually. So all of those rituals, I rejected them back then, and I'm still rejecting them to this day. Very well, now that you understand that, let me give you yet another story. In South Africa, in 2010, where during the World Cup, there was this predictive octopus by the name of, I don't know what the name of that octopus was, but if at all you were watching the soccer World Cup during 2010, you will remember. If you're South African, there's no way you would forget it unless you were too young. There was an octopus that used to predict the outcome of matches, and it was always accurate. It was always accurate. It would have a ball put inside, not a ball, or some food that would be put in its little aquarium that it was living in, and there would be a span of the two countries that are playing a match on one food item, and then a flag of the other country, the opposing country, another food bed, right? And wherever it is that this octopus chose to eat food first out of, where this octopus chose to eat its delicacy out of, that would be the country that was predicted by this octopus to win the particular match in the World Cup. And all times, 100% of the time, that octopus was accurate. It even predicted that Spain would win that World Cup, even though what is this? We favored, who was at the final? I don't know. It wasn't Brazil. Was Brazil? I stand corrected, right? But Spain ultimately won the World Cup, and I remember I favored some other team, but Spain won. That's what's good. Yeah, and this octopus rightly predicted it. I only got born again a year later. I told you I got born again in 2011. When I got saved, the first thought that came to my mind, among the first thoughts that came to my mind concerning pagan practices, was that prophetic octopus of 2010 during the World Cup. I was given immediate conviction that was demonic, that anybody that believed in that octopus's psychic powers to predict the outcome of the World Cup was partaking in idolatry. I was immediately made to understand that a lot of the practices on earth that people walk in are demonic. I was made to abandon the horoscope altogether. I was made to abandon believing in the predictive octopus or any such thing. I was made to abandon even the usage of the word luck very casually in my vocabulary because I understood its occult roots. I was made to basically recognize idolatry for what it was. Things that I very casually took in my stride on the come up, I was made to throw them all away. So that predictive octopus was the work of the devil. It's that basic. As human beings, we are not to believe in things like those. There is only one prophet on earth and in heaven, and it's Jesus, it's God, and he then builds prophets out of human beings. And so therefore the only true prophets are those who come in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Everybody else is a farce. Everybody else is a false, and everything else is also a farce. The Lord also only gives prophetic gifting to human beings, not animals. So if there is an animal that is predictive or has some kind of psychic talent or some kind of power, it's demonic. It's that basic. Yeah, very well. And so therefore, what is this? Now that you have that context and that understanding, I made some very solid decisions just shortly after getting born again, that as a black person, there's certain things I gotta ditch, certain things I gotta abandon, certain things I gotta walk away from, and certain things I gotta make my family thoroughly understand that I'm not gonna be part of it. One of them was the fact that misebetsi, all of these traditional gatherings where people cook a whole bunch, slaughter an animal, dedicate its blood to ancestors, going to graves, talking to dead relatives, all that jazz, all of these events that black people do, I will no longer be partaking in it. My family members were made to understand with every bone in their body that I will no longer be attending mesebetsi, no disrespect, I don't want to be rude or whatever, because of the fact that but understand that this is for the sake of my religion. It is not personal. I will not be eating food sacrificed to idols. And I also will not be partaking in idolatry. I remember telling this one friend that I used to fellowship with at MTN that also turned out to be a witch. I don't know if there's anyone that's not a witch in this country. Telling her that I'm very worried about my marriage, me getting married, because in black culture, we have got a lot of traditional practices that in and of themselves are not unholy before God, but they're so mixed with so much ancestral worship. They're so mixed with so much pagan practices that it's hard to differentiate, right? Like a traditional wedding, you get to wear your traditional Tswana / Zulu gear, and it's very beautiful. But Koteng, they also do all of these other things that are just like literally demon worship. And I was telling this chick that I am worried for my traditional wedding, because I am almost certain that my uncles, my mom, like my family basically is just going to insist on worshiping idols on my day, and so therefore glory is going to get taken away from God. And this friend, again, you know, straddling the fence, it's not really going to work out for you that well, was like, no, in order to please Abadala, otherwise known as elders, just tell them, you know, just basically stand aloof or stand back when they do these rituals, but let them do them because it's what they believe in, it's their customs, just satisfy them with it. And I said to her, but I can't do that because I stand with God. I would not allow my day to be taken over by demons just for the sake of titivating the taste buds of my mom, my uncle, and the rest of the family of elders. They gotta understand I'm a Christian and it's my day. I was like, they gotta understand I'm a Christian and it's my day. And given that it is my day and I am a Christian, do you understand what I'm saying? I intend to use this day to glorify God. I want his might and his mercy and his splendor and his glory to be prevalent all over the room. And so not only evangelize people, but inspire them to also get their weddings done the way that I did, so that the glory of God might ruminate and flow in a room to save people and to inspire them to be like me, or, you know, to seek the face of God in glorifying him. Whatever you do, whether you eat, whether you drink, whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. When you get married, do it for the glory of God. Let the glory of God emanate in a room when you're getting married. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I told my friend, now turned again mortal enemy, I told her that I am not just going to please the elderly for the sake of not offending at the expense of evangelistic opportunities at my wedding. I don't want any ounce, not even a small little driblet of idolatry there, ever. So we are not going to be slaughtering any animals. We are not going to be praying to any ancestors. There's not going to be any funny rituals. I don't know how in the world to separate a traditional wedding from all of these things, where it is that I get to wear my Tswana traditional gear, but without dishonoring God. But I'm going to get it right. I'm going to, with surgical precision, take out all the junk and keep what is good. I will throw out the bathwater and I will keep the baby. Well, it never really happened because we all know I'm still single, right? But those were my intentions, and I made them starkly known to my mother. I let her know that when I get married, understand that there will be none of this ancestral worship thing. You will not be talking to Gogo. You'll not be taking anything there. You will not, etc. Yeah, my mother, little did I know that she was busy listening to me with a side eye, because she then would later on go on right ahead to bewitch my prospects of ever getting married, because she didn't want me getting married. She wanted me to take care of her for the rest of my days. That's my family. Okay, so she didn't really care that I didn't want a traditional wedding, because according to her, I was never going to get married anyway. It's not that I didn't want a traditional wedding. I didn't want it mixed in with all that other ancestral rubbish. My mom, my uncle, everybody, however, knew that I don't do mesebetsi. That never will they ever see me go mosebetsi. That literally, if at all they were doing a mosebetsi, kya ba ka lebala ka invitation for the Karabo household. It's not happening. I'm not coming. Hi, Hampi. I'll be there at Christmas. I'll be there at Braai. I'll be there at Easter. I'll be there at birthday party zabana. But don't expect me to come ko mesebetsi. And if at all go to birthday party zabana, if at all at babies' birthday parties, if at all at little braais on Easter, you decide to start praying to ancestors, I'm literally gonna break away and sit in my car for an hour, and then I will come back. All right. I told my family, they knew. My uncle was communicated this in an email. I even told him that the Lord showed me that they are all going to do msebenzi for me, to basically snap me out of whatever Christianity is going on in my brain, and that he shouldn't even try. And he swore at my God and used a small J for Jesus, and basically told me where to get off in that email. Very well. Nonetheless, that email got out, meaning that my uncle has thorough communication of the fact that I want nothing to do with ancestors. I want nothing to do with all of their rituals. I will not, I will not go to mesebetsi. Yeah, I live in South Africa, a democracy that is fast becoming some other anomalous beast. Nonetheless, currently we have a constitution that gives us a freedom of religion, and we have a constitution that gives us a freedom of expression. And based on this constitution, I should be able to practice my Christianity to a point where if I refuse to attend a family function, or if I refuse for there to be ancestral worship stuff at a wedding of mine, I get to do that. I can't be forced down my throat like in the Middle East Sharia law equivalent or tantamount in this country. Whether or not black people are besotted and beside themselves with adoration for ancestral worship and all different kinds of mixings with God with the devil is irrelevant. Bottom line is, if I've chosen God, we're running with it because I live in a country where I get to do that. Well, South Africa displayed that its law is nothing but paper. It's just written in Jafela on paper, and there's nothing that actually has any true meaning in it, where it is that South Africans have comprehensively disregarded my right to a freedom of religion. They have comprehensively disregarded my hatred of ancestors, my rejection of them, my rejection of all of those practices, my rejection of witchcraft, and all things that don't have anything to do with a holy and precious God. By giving favor, awarding, therefore, respect to people who have disrespected me because of the fact that I would not partake in their fruitless deeds. The Bible says, do not partake in fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. South Africa has disregarded my religion. It has disregarded my faith. It has persecuted me. I lost my job largely because I was a Christian. Why? Because I refused to partake in shoddy, underhanded business practices that would derelize people's careers, and so I was sabotaged. I did not want to walk in ways that were not upright, and so I lost a job in the climate of lawless men and lawless women that then rose up, concocted, trumped up charges against me that ultimately got me fired, following which, upon realizing they don't have a leg to stand on in that case, they then decided to tell the CCMA that I resigned. Now that you have understood all that, it's 2023, and due to me apparently allegedly being ignored by my God, they have made an observation of the fact that my Christianity has not produced any fruit according to them. I am walking, therefore, according to them, not in truth. And so because I am looking like I am deceived due to the fallenness of my life, they are now trying to reignite, shoving down my throat, their religion. This is the equivalent of ethnic cleansing, much like what under heaven it is that is happening in the Middle East, where they claim that the Jews are ethnically cleansing every other religious group in that land, especially Arabs, if you look at the statistics of how many Arabs are in Israel versus just 10 years ago, they've like tripled or like quadrupled or something. But if you look at all of the Muslim nations surrounding Israel as to how many Jews are there from like 10 years ago to present, some numbers are so abysmal that they are literally hovering around in single digits. In Gaza, there's 0. In Egypt, there's 3. In some parts of in Iran, like they are negligible. Like you can count them almost like using an abacus or just on your 10 fingers and toes, versus how many of them there used to be in the 90s. That in 1948, when the Jews were restored to the land. That's what's good. There's been a significant decline of Jewish populations in these surrounding nations. That is ethnic cleansing, but not in Israel. But nobody likes the truth, do they? Because the number of Arabs in Israel have only intensified ever since then. Nobody likes the truth. And here it is that South Africa is ethnically cleansing Christians. They are ethnically cleansing Christians. They are saying get out of our society or embrace. They're saying get out of South Africa or accept your roots. As a black person, you are going to embrace your ancestors. You are going to take them in your stride. You are going to, even you can take Jesus. We're not going to stop you from being Christian, but you cannot be Christian only. Your Jesus Christ onlyism is going to get you killed in a country where everybody is embracing their ancestors and Jesus. I had a colleague at MTN that I tried to basically uproot the junk out of ancestral worship, and she got angry with me, upset, backbit me, and then told me Jesus understands. Very well. I don't know what's happening with her today, but she's shortly about to understand that no such thing is true. So ethnic cleansing is a whole thing in South Africa, where it is that they're literally trying to clean, scrub as with a sponge. Yeah. Christianity out of especially the black community. They are trying to make us serve Baal, who has never ever been displayed as God, while we are trying very hard to display that God is God. I've said it and I will continue to say it over and over again. South Africa is apostate. This land does not have as many Christians as it boasts. This country is walking in an apostasy, quite a violent one. It is also virulent in the sense that it keeps on spreading like a pathogen, and yet nobody's raising the alarm except, I guess, me. But am I really raising the alarm when I've got 1 or 2 views per video on YouTube? I don't know. Bottom line is, ethnic cleansing is happening in South Africa of Christians, especially if they're black. We are being uprooted from the land if we don't embrace our ancestors. And here it is that I am facing extinction, essentially. I am like a dinosaur. At this point, I am an endangered species because I have been sitting around in what looks like, obviously, Christianity does not pay off if you don't embrace your ancestors. And these people are telling me either embrace them or die off. I was watching some, what was it? I don't even know what in the world it was, because was it an advert? Because I thoroughly do not watch anything with Somizi in it. Anyway, like, not for any other reason, just because I don't watch South African television. I think it might have been an ad, I don't know. But what is this? Now, was it a Christian that was covering it? Yes, it was a Christian in this country that was covering it. That's how I would happen upon that content. Some Christian dude in this country was covering some happenstance in some reality TV show where Somizi's daughter, right, was basically saying to her dad that this whole ancestral worship thing, no thank you. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm like, I'm fine. Like, I it's just my choice. I don't want it. And Somizi was like, you say that now, but when these ancestors want you, they want you, they want you. You will find yourself in some situation in life one day, and I'm telling you right now, the very thing right now that you are rejecting, that you are denying, yeah, you will go running to it because you will be met with chock-a-blocks. That is what Somizi said. Somizi, of which is a professing Christian and a gay man, right? And he is out here crying about how it is that he tried to do Jesus only, just like his daughter was trying to do Jesus only, without ancestral worship, and it didn't work. Except, Somizi, how can it ever work for you to be truly godly, for you to choose Jesus only, when you insist on mixing Jesus with your homosexuality, disregarding the fact that Christ will not have that be a thing that is a going concern? When you continue to insist on fornicating, when you continue to insist living basically a whole worldly party lifestyle full of debauchery, and every Sunday, however, be in church, and maybe even sometimes on Wednesdays do Bible study, your life is compromised, you're flaccid, you're fallen, you're fluffy. And it's written in God's word that if at all you are wicked and you pray to God, your prayers are an abomination to Emmanuel, that sin is going to hinder your prayers. So if at all you were busy trying to get stuff from God and ancestors were knocking on your door telling you we'll give it to you, of course you are going to ultimately capitulate to going to a sangoma to get what you want, since you don't want to be righteous. You have exchanged the truth of God for the lie, and so gather for yourself a great number of teachers to teach you what your itching ears want to hear. Somizi is the one that capitulated to using ancestors with Christianity because he didn't want to leave his lifestyle behind, and now he was trying to train his daughter to embrace those ancestors early, lest she should be met with some kind of chock-a-blocks in life. Well, lo and behold, a couple of years down the line from that particular date, the mother of this girl, who is Palesa, apparently allegedly got the stepping on out of Bongoma. She is a Twasat Sangoma, and she decided to walk away because it was all rubbish and chose Jesus or something. I've yet to listen to the full testimony, but this girl's mother was a Sangoma, and she didn't want anything to do with ancestors. The mother got out of Bosangoma, therefore proving that the daughter was onto something. I don't know if the daughter has ever since then embraced this stuff according to Somizi's sentiments and what have you. But the thing that happened with Somizi is exactly what it is that people anticipate is going to end up happening with me. They make enough observations of lukewarm Christians who are not really consecrated to God, struggling to honor Jesus only, and then turning to witchcraft, and then they think it's going to happen to the rest of us. We are engrafted into the branch, we bear fruit. Do you into the vine, and we bear fruit. None of us can be plucked out of his hands. He gives us good works in advance that we might walk in them. Do not look at a country full of apostate Christians and then paint all of us with the same brush as them. We are unfortunately wheat growing up among tares, and so we're going to have a whole bunch of people encircling us that are reprobate, that are disturbingly apostate, and in their apostasy are then going to basically blanket paint all of Christians with the same brush that they are in. So in then thinking I'm Somizi, in there, Somizi of which once walked out of Grace Bible Church crying and complaining when they preached against homosexuality, and then went on ENCA and complained, and Pastor Matole called in and basically retracted their statements and saying that it was a guest pastor. So he caused the country to basically go in uproar against Grace Bible Church for preaching against homosexuality. So it is no wonder you ended up having to turn to ancestors. Somizi. Let's just put that out there. So if at all you think I'm Somizi, because I'm professing Christ just as Somizi is professing. Only go and look at the fruit of Somizi. Only go and look at the life of Somizi and realize that it is not at all Christian, not even in the slightest. And so that is why Somizi had to basically go on right ahead and end up with ancestors to get what he wanted. They put Christians in a hard position so we can ultimately abandon the Lord. The Lord, however, tests us for a season. After we are tested, he establishes us back to everything that we need, that we might lack absolutely nothing. It is for you to pass that test. The Lord says in his word, do not grow weary of doing good, for in due season you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you do not give up. So what is important at present is to never give up, because ultimately you will reap the peaceful fruit of righteousness. So those people who keep on throwing in the towel a quarter of the way in the journey, half the way in the journey, maybe even 75% of the way in the journey, they do not count. They don't represent the body of Christ. They have compromised. They have partaken in Balaam's error. They have eaten food sacrificed to idols and have partaken in sexual immorality. And so because of Balaam's error, they now were successfully cursed. Do you understand? But if you hold on to God, even in hardship, since persecution was guaranteed for Christians, in due season you will reap the fruit, the peaceful fruit of righteousness if you don't give up. The Lord does not dictate how long that season is. That is why long suffering is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. So I've been suffering for 9 years, going on 10. And some people are like, it's been a decade, Kanti, when are you going to give up? Well, Joseph suffered for longer than I did. David suffered for longer than I did. Many of the prophets of the Old Testament literally endured decades of suffering. So really, frankly, what I'm enduring is a pin drop in the ocean. Plus, there are people who live in such hostile nations to the gospel that they suffer all their lives, like Iranians, like the Indians, like the people living in Lebanon, in Syria, etc. I could go on. So if at all it's that bad for some Christians across the world, you who are suffering for 10 years but with food in your stomach have no excuse to give up or throw in the towel. So in a country where Christianity is not as badly persecuted as the Middle East, you are of course going to have a whole bunch of Somizis. You are going to have a whole bunch of flaccid, fluffy, lukewarm Christians that are going to then inspire the whole nation to think that they can just treat you like trash until you finally embrace the ancestors and then hold a dogma, a rhetoric along the lines of the fact that, little daughter, you will ultimately run to your ancestors when you are met with chock-a-blocks, not even realizing that those chock-a-blocks were put in front of your feet by friends who keep on bewitching you, by family members who keep on bewitching you, by colleagues who keep on bewitching you, the bewitchment of which is conquerable under no other name under heaven but for the name of Jesus. He is the only one that enables you to overcome the weapons of your warfare that are not carnal but are mighty in God for the pulling down of strongholds. Those weapons who come at you that shall not prosper are from the wicked one. His fiery darts will come at you indeed, but you will trample them underfoot. You will raise up a standard above the devil. You will conquer. The gates of Hades will not prevail against the church. And so if you stand firm, having done all, stand therefore, knowing that your adversary the devil prances around like a roaring lion, seeking whomever he may devour. When you stand and you wear your full armor, in due season you will reap the fruit, the peaceful fruit of righteousness, and you will also suffer no more want and lack. So it is about long suffering, and it is about long suffering in righteousness. It is about never compromising. It is about standing fast with the Lord. It is about Jesus Christ onlyism, in that it is only him and no other name under heaven by which men will be saved. It is not ancestors. It is nothing else but Jesus. If you hold on to just Jesus, let all of these witches laugh at you. Let all of these compromisers laugh at you. Let everybody else that has partaken in the fruitless deeds of darkness laugh at you. Let everybody else that has jeered and jested at you laugh at you. Let everybody else that eventually used witchcraft to get a husband laugh at you. Let everybody else that eventually capitulated to Korobela laugh at you. Let everybody else who eventually consulted a Sangoma because they were struggling to get ahead laugh at you. But in due season, after suffering for a little while, the God of all grace will restore you to everything lacking and nothing. You have got to trust that the Bible is true. Mark 10 says that if you lose houses, fields, homes, what is this, respect, whatever it is that you could potentially lose, you will gain in this world 100-fold over all of those things with persecutions, and in the next life, eternal life. So if you lose your life, you gain it it. And if you gain your life, if you lose your life, you gain it. If you lose your life for the sake of the kingdom of heaven, you will gain it. But if you hold on to your life, you will lose it. If you just stick to biblical Christianity, even if it's really hard and you're impossible to push to another day, ultimately the Lord will restore you to everything lacking in nothing. I live in a country that's just full of a whole bunch of non-truthers. They don't like the truth. They have exchanged the truth of God for a lie. And so God is going to hand them over, if not already having done so, to a strong delusion. I'm holding on to God. Not only am I holding on to him, I made it clear when I got born again that it's him and him only now. No more horoscope, no more misebetsi, no more eating food sacrificed to idols, no more compromise, no more talking to dead people, no more going to graves to talk to the late. No more, no more, no more. I let them know. It was clear. It was put even on email. Goodness gracious, there is a paper trail. And yet, Lord have mercy on me. Here it is that in 2023 I get invited to umsebenzi.